Fluent Flow podcast. New videos every day. Let's learn English together.
Hello and welcome to the Deep Dive. I'm really glad you're joining us today. We're here, as always, on our kind of unique mission to really take a close look at source material, pull it apart, and find those truly important bits of knowledge, those insights. We always aim to give you, our listener, that useful shortcut to being properly informed. Maybe even find a few surprising things along the way. Keep it interesting.
And today, we've got something pretty fascinating lined up. We're doing a deep dive into, the entire script from a podcast designed for beginner English learners. It's called Fluent Flow Podcast Episode 13, Daily Life English Conversation.
Now, just to be super clear, right off the bat, we are not about to give you an English lesson ourselves.
Definitely not. That's not the goal here at all.
No. Our mission today is more like a forensic analysis. We're looking at how this learning material is put together, how it's presented.
Exactly. We're looking under the hood, so to speak, trying to understand what makes this kind of teaching effective, especially for someone starting from absolute scratch. We'll be examining the conversational examples they use, the structure, everything.
Yeah, peeling back the layers, we want to identify the thinking behind it, what makes it clear, engaging, and importantly, actually useful in the real world.
And the value for you listening in is pretty significant, I think. You'll get some real insights into practical teaching methods, maybe appreciate the power of keeping things simple in communication, and you'll see how even, really everyday topics can be used for serious learning.
It's really about understanding the art and the science of making complex things accessible.
That's a great way to put it.
So whether you're maybe an educator looking for ideas, or a designer thinking about learning structures, or maybe you're just curious about how knowledge gets distilled, this deep dive should be right up your alley.
Okay,
let's get into it. Let's unpack this fascinating script.
Right. So when you first go through this Fluent Flow script, the thing that immediately strikes you, it's almost like their guiding principle, is this core philosophy. It's an absolute commitment to, extreme clarity, a very deliberate, slow pace, and systematic repetition. Lots of it.
They don't hide it either, do they?
Not at all. The source is explicit. It says its style is slow, clear, beginner-friendly English. And it promises easy vocabulary, everyday phrases, and repetition. It's right there. It's the foundation.
It feels almost, countercultural in a world where everything's so fast and dense.
It does. And it's a very deliberate choice. They're tackling head-on those common problems that new language learners face. You know that feeling, being totally overwhelmed by fast native speech, or getting lost in complex grammar you haven't grasped yet.
Oh, absolutely. It could be paralyzing.
Exactly. And this approach just sidesteps those issues beautifully. They're breaking language down into its most basic parts for that initial stage.
So it's not just simplifying. It's about managing the mental effort involved.
Precisely. It's about cognitive load. When you're starting out, your brain is working incredibly hard to process everything new, sounds, words, patterns. It's exhausting. By slowing down and simplifying so drastically, they reduce that load. They make sure you're not just hearing the language, but you actually have the mental space to process it, absorb it.
Like making sure the input is comprehensible.
Exactly. It keeps learners in that sweet spot, what Vygotsky called the zone of proximal development. Challenging enough to learn, but not so hard you just give up.
And they're so upfront about it, too. The script actually says, we will speak slowly, we will use easy English, you can listen and repeat after us.
Yeah, it's not some hidden trick. It's an open invitation. Here's how this works. Here's how you participate. That transparency builds trust, sets expectations, it guides the learner.
It's like saying, okay, relax, we've got you, just follow along.
And this approach, it builds such a solid foundation. By focusing on just a few words or instructions at a time, they prevent that cognitive overload we talked about. Think of it like building with Legos. They make sure each brick is firmly in place before adding the next one.
So learners gain confidence with the basics first.
Crucially, yes. Confidence with maybe just a few present tense verbs or some core nouns. That success becomes its own motivator. It keeps them going. It fights off that feeling of, I'll never get this.
Okay, so this core idea, simplicity, slow pace, repetition, it's not just in the intro, it runs through the entire thing.
It absolutely permeates every segment. It's the DNA of the episode, as you said.
Right. And speaking of starting points, the way they begin with the characters introducing themselves. It seems simple, but there's more to it, isn't there?
Oh, definitely. It looks basic on the surface. Emily says she's from New York City in the United States. David says he's from Los Angeles, California. Polite hellos.
But it's teaching something fundamental straight away.
It is. It's modeling those absolute essential phrases, my name is, I'm from. These are often the very first things you need to be able to say in a new language to have any kind of basic interaction.
The survival phrases.
Exactly. So by putting them right at the beginning, spoken clearly, they give the listener an immediate usable template. You hear it, you process it, you're primed to maybe try saying it yourself.
It's learning by example right there.
Perfect example. Look at the phrasing. Hello, my friend. Welcome to the Fluent Flow podcast. My name is Emily. I'm from New York City in the United States. And David's parallel intro, clear, concise, easy to repeat, establishes who they are, welcomes the listener, and provides that first bit of language to mimic.
And that direct address. Hi, everyone. We are very happy you're here with us. That feels important, too. It's welcoming.
It really is. It creates a connection. And that raises a good point. How much does feeling connected, even just a podcast host, affect learning, motivation, retention?
Well, if you feel welcomed, less anxious maybe, more open to learning.
I think so. Krashen's effective filter, right? Lowering that emotional barrier. Feeling included makes you more receptive. It makes it feel less like a dry lesson, more like a friendly chat.
Reduces that learning anxiety.
Which is a huge barrier in language learning. Feeling comfortable, safe, part of something. It just opens up your brain to absorbing information. And from there, they transition smoothly into the main topic, the daily routine, just like a real conversation might flow.
Keeps it feeling natural.
Okay, so that first main section they dive into is waking up and morning routine. And pedagogically, this is really smart.
Why start there specifically?
Because it uses everyday actions, things everyone does, to introduce basic verbs and, crucially, time expressions. Things like, what time do you wake up? Leading to, I wake up at 7 a.m.
Right, I see. Then actions like, I open my eyes, I make my bed, I brush my teeth. Very concrete.
Exactly. And they include things like saying, good morning, world. Drinking coffee, I drink a cup of coffee every morning. And eating toast. These are universal, relatable actions.
Makes the vocabulary immediately relevant. You can picture yourself doing it.
Precisely. Starting from waking up is brilliant because these actions are universal. The vocabulary sticks because it's tied to your own experience. And notice the shift from questions, what time, to statements, I wake up at. It teaches both asking and answering without getting bogged down in grammar rules.
Learn by doing, again.
Yep. And the specific words, open my eyes, make my bed, brush my teeth, are simple physical actions. Easy to grasp, even good morning world adds personality while being a useful greeting. It makes the language feel alive.
So the routine provides a natural sequence, linking actions to time and objects.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It gives learners a framework to talk about their day. They're not just memorizing words in isolation, they're learning to build a narrative about their own lives. That's a huge step towards actual fluency.
And they explicitly ask for repetition here too, don't they?
Oh yes, very clearly. Let's repeat. I wake up at 7 a.m., I brush my teeth, I drink coffee, say it with us, and then again. Let's say it again. I make my bed, I eat toast. Repeat one more time.
It's not just a suggestion, it's an instruction. Active participation.
And that's where we can see the deep dive perspective. That explicit repeating isn't just for memory. It's about building muscle memory for pronunciation. Saying the words out loud engages more of your brain hearing, speaking, coordinating your mouth.
It helps internalize the sounds and rhythm.
Definitely. It breaks down hesitation. It's deliberate practice turning knowledge into something more automatic. Active learning baked right in.
Okay, so after the morning routine, they logically move on to going to work or school. Makes sense.
Yeah, the natural flow continues. Here the focus shifts to transportation and departure times. Still very basic, everyday stuff.
So the core info is Emily takes the bus, David drives a car. And they leave at different times, Emily at 8 a.m., David at 7:45.
Seems simple, but again, it's packing in learning. New action verbs related to travel, different modes of transport. And the time difference, 8000 versus 7.45, brings a number practice and a subtle comparison.
Right, building complexity very gradually. And the specific phrases are clear. I take the bus, I drive to work, I leave home at 8 a.m.
Very clear. And crucially, they broaden it out. They don't just stick to bus and car. The script adds, I go to work, I go to school, I take the train, I walk. It gives learners more options that might fit their own lives better.
That's smart, anticipating the listener's situation.
Exactly. It provides wider applicability. So how does giving these multiple similar options help learners?
Well, I guess they see the pattern, right? I take the L, or I go to.
Yeah.
and they can slot in their own transport. It makes the knowledge flexible.
Precisely. They grasp the underlying structure, how I get around, and can adapt it. I take the bus becomes easily adaptable to I ride my bike later on, even if bike isn't explicitly taught here. The simplicity allows that adaptation.
And it still feels natural following the morning prep with actually leaving the house, grounded in reality.
Keeps the cognitive leap small. Okay, so next up in the daily cycle, talking about meals.
Another universal topic. Good for vocabulary.
Excellent for vocabulary. And again, they keep the food examples very common. Rice and chicken, a salad, soup, and a sandwich for lunch.
Accessible stuff. And dinner is framed more personally. Favorite meal, relaxing, eaten at 7 p.m.
Yeah, introducing that personal element is key. They also include I drink water, which is basic but essential. The choice of simple foods ensures accessibility across cultures. But connecting meals with feelings, dinner time is relaxing, adds another layer.
It's not just naming things, it's describing experiences, introduces adjectives, opinions.
Subtly moving towards more nuanced expression, and the repetition is relentless, in a good way. I eat lunch, I eat rice, I eat soup. Hammering home the verb eat and linking it directly to the nouns solidifies that connection.
So you mentioned connecting language to personal preference, like dinner is my favorite meal. How does that make it more engaging than just memorizing lists?
That's where it gets really powerful, I think. When you learn to express something you actually feel or prefer, the language becomes yours. It's not just abstract words anymore. It's a tool for expressing you. That emotional connection makes it stick so much better. It boosts motivation because you want to be able to say these things.
It shifts from mechanical drill to actual communication.
Exactly. Meaningful interaction.
Okay, so after meals, the day starts winding down. The script moves into the evening routine.
Yep, bringing the daily narrative to a close. It covers common evening activities.
Like wash the dishes, practical chores.
And leisure things. Relax, watch TV, read a book. Then specifying bedtime, 10 p.m., followed by good night and sleep.
It completes the whole cycle from waking up to going to sleep, gives a full narrative arc.
And introduces verbs for chores and leisure, highly relevant to home life. Things learners will definitely use. High-yield vocabulary.
And the sentences stay simple. I watch TV. I read a book.
Absolutely. Simple, declarative sentences. Easy to digest, understand, repeat. No complex grammar to trip them up. Just basic, functional communication built sentence by sentence.
So how does this step-by-step progression through the day help learners structure their own thoughts in English?
It gives them a ready-made framework. They learn the sequence, the flow, then they can plug in their own activities and times, and it reinforces time expressions like 10 p.m. in a very practical context. It provides the scaffolding they need to build their own descriptions.
Okay, so we've covered the necessities: waking, eating, working, sleeping, but then the script shifts gear a bit, right, into talking about free time.
Yes, and this is a really important shift, moving beyond just the routine into personal interests.
Things people actually choose to do, like listen to music, play the guitar, play video games, walk outside, walk in the park, enjoying fresh air.
Activities that bring enjoyment, making the language acquisition itself more enjoyable and memorable because it connects to positive feelings.
This is crucial, isn't it? Moving beyond just what you do to who you are, what you enjoy.
Absolutely. It allows learners to start expressing their identity, their likes, dislikes. It's a major step towards more authentic communication.
And the phrases stay simple. I love music.
Simple and direct. And notice the me too response.
Oh yeah, modeling agreement. Simple but vital for conversation.
Exactly. It's not just stating things, it's interacting. And mentioning fresh air adds a nice descriptive touch, makes it richer.
So what's the deeper significance here? How do these simple expressions of preference, like I love music, lay the groundwork for more complex interaction later?
Because they're the building blocks for sharing your personality, for finding common ground with people, for moving beyond just functional exchanges. This is where language starts becoming a tool for real human connection, not just transactions, sharing who you are.
That makes sense. Okay, now one of the most interesting parts, I think, is the section explicitly on English practice, where they talk about learning.
Yes, this is quite unique and incredibly valuable. A meta lesson, as you called it earlier.
They give specific advice, right? Listen to podcasts, repeat words, speak out loud every day.
Read short texts, watch English videos, and crucially, say the words out loud again. Practical, actionable steps.
So they're not just teaching the what English, but the how how to learn it.
Exactly. It empowers the listener, gives them strategies they can use outside the podcast. It fosters learner autonomy, independence. It's like giving them the toolkit for continued learning.
And they reinforce these strategies with repetition, too.
Of course, consistent with their whole approach. Phrases like, I speak English, I practice every day, I learn new words. And that encouragement, practice every day, little by little, you get better. It instills that crucial mindset of perseverance, gradual improvement.
So how does a learning resource, talking about learning itself, actually help the learner? Does it make them more self-aware?
I believe so. It gives them that framework for independent study. They understand why they're doing certain activities, like repeating out loud. It makes them more conscious participants in their own learning process. That's powerful. It's equipping them with lifelong learning skills applied to language.
Right. And after all that instruction and advice, they wrap up with reinforcement and encouragement.
Yes. The final segment is all about solidifying the learning and boosting confidence.
With that rapid-fire review, I wake up, I brush my teeth, I go to work, like ticking things off a list.
Yeah, it's a quick celebratory recap. I eat lunch, I go to bed, I listen to music, I speak English, I learn every day. That ragged recall helps cement the phrases in memory. You mentally retrieve them, strengthening the pathways.
And it gives a real sense of accomplishment. Wow, I learned all that.
Exactly. And then comes the explicit praise. Great job, everyone. You are doing amazing. That positive reinforcement is vital. It consolidates all those nuggets of knowledge into a feeling of success. It counters the natural forgetting curve and makes the effort feel rewarded.
So this combo, the structured review, plus the genuine praise, creates a positive feedback loop, motivates you to keep practicing.
Absolutely. It highlights the importance of celebrating milestones, however small. It makes the big goal of learning a language feel achievable, step by step. Little by little, you get better, become something you actually feel.
Okay, so let's look at the very end. How do they handle the call to action and the farewell?
They're very clear and direct. First, they thank the listeners, reiterate the episode topic, daily life English conversation. Then they express hope that you practiced and feel more confident. That validates the listener's effort and links back to the purpose.
And then they give those specific next steps.
Right. Explicit instructions, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, follow for more episodes, and that final, crucial reminder, practice English out loud.
These aren't just suggestions, they're strategic calls to action, designed to keep the learner engaged with the podcast, the community, and their own practice.
Builds that consistent learning habit. And the final encouragement, keep going, you are doing great. Followed by simple goodbyes like, see you next time, bye-bye, oh, take care, leaves you on a high note.
Feeling supported and motivated. It frames learning as an ongoing journey.
Masterfully done.
Okay, so that brings us to our final thought for you, the listener. What's the bigger lesson we can take away from analyzing this beginner English script?
Well, we've seen how incredibly effective this fluent flow approach is, and its success really boils down to that relentless simplicity, the constant repetition, the logical structure through relatable topics. It takes something potentially overwhelming, learning a whole new language, and breaks it into small, manageable, achievable steps.
So it's a template, really, applicable beyond just language learning.
I think so. It's a blueprint for tackling almost any complex skill or area of knowledge.
So the provocative thought for you today is this. Think about a complex challenge in your own life, maybe a new skill for work, a personal goal, a big project.
Could you break it down like this? Could you identify your own daily life English conversations? Those simple, repeatable steps to make that challenge feel less daunting, more manageable, and ultimately masterable.
Applying that principle of radical simplicity and structured practice to your own goals, that's a powerful takeaway. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We really hope you've gained some useful insights, not just into teaching language, but maybe into your own learning process too.
Definitely. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, keep going.